Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this parent seminar that we have on this wonderful Tuesday. My name is Abby Van Coten, and I'm one of the admissions counselors here at Calvin. I've been in this role for about a year and a half, and I serve students from Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Ottawa County here in Michigan, as well as the northern suburbs of Detroit. But today I'm going to be kind of helping host and kind of navigate this parent seminar. And today we will be focusing on careers and outcomes, which is definitely very important, especially as you're thinking about sending your kids away to college. So I'm going to kind of explain the lineup that we have for this evening, and then we will kind of dive in to that lineup and have our presenters talk. So to start off, we will be having Courtney Tatum-Banks, who's the interim director of the Career Center. And then after that, she'll hand it off to Robin Waite, who's the director of admissions. She's going to talk about next steps. And then after that, we're going to hear from our parent council. We'll be able to have a Q&A. You guys are welcome to ask questions in our Q&A function down there on the Zoom screen. So please feel free to send those in as long as you have some questions. But yeah, I'll start handing it over to Courtney, and she can kind of talk about careers and outcomes and how Calvin can help your student after they graduate and also while they're at Calvin as a student.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Courtney Banks-Tatum, and I have the honor of serving as the interim director of the Career Center. And I'm really excited to be able to share with you our career outcomes for graduates of 2020. But before we jump into the data, I would like to provide an overview of the Career Center and why we do the work that we do. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our mission in the Career Center is to equip students to succeed on their lifelong vocational path by determining their strengths, developing their skills, and discovering God's call for their lives. So all the work that we do is centered on equipping students with the knowledge, the skills, and experiences they will need to be successful in life as they navigate their career and step into adulthood. Here at Calvin, we consider vocation to be more than just a career. It's a lifelong process of tuning into God's call, understanding who we are in Christ, and living our lives accordingly. The work we do is more than just helping students land their first job after graduation. We strive to help students holistically so that they are prepared with the skills they will need for life and work at every stage of their life, wherever God may call them. So to help students navigate their vocational journey, we have a wonderful team of career coaches who are intentional about walking alongside students from the moment they step foot on campus through graduation. They help students identify their gifts, explore career options, and prepare for internship and job opportunities. Our coaches are divided by cluster and serve as experts in career readiness, networking, and the job search process. Next slide, please. Thank you. In addition to having an amazing career coaching team to assist students, we also have a free 4-year co-curricular program that has an integrative approach to helping students discover their unique vocational callings and prepare for adult life from the point of initial contact with Calvin, so as freshmen, all the way to graduation. The program consists of 36 online modules and equips students with practical skills such as resume writing and budgeting, while also giving them the opportunity to wrestle with big questions such as calling, inclusivity, and ethics and values. Modules fit into one of 4 program tracks. It can be vocation, career readiness, financial literacy, and life skills. And then the last one is leadership development. I have included some student testimonials so that you can see how students feel about our program. But overall, we love it. They love it. I would say the favorite modules, of course, are the financial literacy and life skill modules because students get a chance to create a budget. They learn about taxes, about health insurance, how to purchase a car, a new home. So all the things that they're going to need as they emerge into adulthood. Each month, if we can go back, sorry. So each month, students dive into the assigned topic by watching videos, they listen to podcasts, and they complete assigned readings and may respond to quizzes and coach feedback. The time commitment is very minimal, so each module only takes about an hour or less to complete. And right now we are in our 5th year of operation and currently serve over 1,100 students. And we hope you will encourage your son or daughter to participate as well. In addition to the Calvin LifeWork program, we do provide a variety of virtual and in-person services. So I'll start with the career and major exploration. So we have career coaches. You're aware that students can meet with them one-on-one or even in group appointments, but students are also able to take several assessments to identify their strengths, their interests, their workplace preferences, and identify potential careers. We also help with cover letter and resume development critiques, where we have daily walk-in hours for students to receive help on creating or enhancing their resume or cover letter. We also provide internship and job searching guidance, as well as career fairs that we host annually. So we have an online job posting system called Handshake, where students are able to apply for jobs and interact virtually with employers through different types of events. So students can meet with their career coaches for job search assistance, or they can go on Handshake and interact with employers. And like I said before, we do offer several career fairs throughout the year where students are able to connect and engage with over 200 employers annually. Employer workshops, office hours, and on-campus recruiting. We do hold these every week where we bring in employers to facilitate a career-related workshops such as job search tips, how to network, interviewing tips, and preparing for career fairs. Students can also meet on Fridays with an employer and ask job search related questions. They can have the employer review their resume, and they can also do practice interview or a real in-person interview at that time. And finally, we have help with graduate school exploration and preparation for those who may not be interested in working after graduation. Next slide. Thanks. Now that you have a good understanding of how we prepare students for careers, let's transition to some of the career outcomes for our 2020 graduating class. Due to the pandemic, we are still wrapping up and finalizing our official graduate outcomes report, but I did pull some information to be able to share with all of you tonight. So these are some of the employers that for different sectors that constantly or consistently recruit our students for jobs and internships. So we have a good base of alumni working at these organizations. So for the nonprofit and government sector, we have like Kids Food Basket, the U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and World Renew. In the medical sector, we have Spectrum Health, which is one of our largest employers. Mercy Health, St. Mary's, and University of Michigan Health. And then in the accounting and financial realm, we have BDO, EY, Goldman Sachs, Hayworth. In education, most of these that are listed are in the Michigan area. However, we do have a ton of employers in the educational sector that across the nationwide that recruit our students and even globally. And then the last sector is engineering and STEM. So we have Gentex, Pfizer, Steelcase, Tecton, and Whirlpool. So like I said before, these organizations are consistently recruiting our students, and we find that year after year, our students are enjoying working for these institutions. Next slide. Okay, so internships. This is just a snapshot of some of where our students lied for internships over the pandemic. And I was shocked to see that our numbers did not decrease over the pandemic dramatically. It was a slight decrease, but most of these employers that are listed here either held their internships virtually or in person or did a hybrid approach. So our students were still able to get these valuable internship and job opportunities. So some places on here is like Google, Steelcase again, some banks, we have Meyer, we have Amway, the Dow Chemical Company, Gentex, Our Daily Bread Ministries, Goldman Sachs, and just to name a few. But as you can see, our students really had some great opportunities. In addition to internships, I wanted to make sure we put something up about grad schools, because we do see about 20 to 25% of our students pursuing graduate education after graduating from Calvin, and they go to an array of places. So you have some at Boston, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Michigan State, National Institute of Health, the University of California, University of Chicago, and Xavier University. And this is just to name a few. There's a lot more, but these are the ones that we consistently see every year after year. All right, and then my final slide that I have for you is kind of just wrapping everything up and telling you that our career outcomes rate, which is 99.2%. And that basically means that 99.2% of our graduates are working in graduate school or in the military after graduation. And these are a great number. Our numbers usually range in the 90s from year to year. Some top US state locations and cities is Michigan. So we have Grand Rapids, Holland, and Kalamazoo are some of the top places, cities within Michigan. Then we have Illinois, in particular Chicago. We have a great alumni base there. California, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee in particular, and then Washington, DC. And our students on the left side of the screen, they major across the board in different disciplines. So business, engineering, communication, arts and sciences, psych, nursing, kinesiology, Spanish, and English. So we are very proud of our graduates, and they are definitely serving as agents of renewal in the world, touching so many different industries. So that's all that I have for you. And I think I'm gonna turn it over to Robin.
Yes, thank you so much, Courtney. We are so grateful for the work that your team does, and we are certainly fortunate to have such a dedicated staff and our career team. So as we move forward, I simply wanted to share some next steps. As your students are jumping in to this admissions process, my name is Robin Waite. I am Associate Director of Admissions here at Calvin. So I work directly with our domestic recruitment team. So just wanted to point out a couple things that will be helpful as your student is gearing up for these next steps. So first and foremost, we are so excited and grateful that you're spending your time with us here virtually. We are available in person as well. We have on-campus visit options, individual visits, as well as group visits for Calvin Discovery Days. We also have some additional virtual events that are great for your students as well, including next week, we have a Career Pathways event that has been really successful. One of the events that we get a lot of really positive feedback from, helping students navigate this career process, even starting now before they even start at Calvin. So that is an excellent opportunity. And that's one of the best ways, just getting on campus and visiting is one of the best ways to really see, is Calvin a good fit? Calvin a good fit for your student? Next, apply. Our application for admission is open. We are test optional, so students can choose to submit their test scores, or they can choose not to. They are still awarded the same opportunities either way. And our application deadline, our first application deadline is November 1st. And the application is actually free if students apply by November 1st. So definitely encourage your student to submit that application. They can submit their application via Common App or through the Calvin application through our website. Either way is fine. If they choose to use the Common application, they can simply submit their application through that, stating that they're applying by November 1st. So the application fee should be waived through that. Additionally, we are actively sending out notifications already. So even students are receiving notifications from us as we speak. So definitely encourage your student to apply if they have not already. And we are looking forward to reviewing their application. And then finally, the financial aid process is well underway as well. So the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, became available on October 1st. So if your student has not begun the FAFSA, we heavily encourage it. Calvin does award grants to students based on that information, even if they may not qualify for federal or state aid. So again, we definitely encourage that. We also have our named scholarship application will be coming available on December 1st is when that will open. Students do have to be admitted in order to be able to apply for those. So again, going back to that last point, ensure that they're applying so that they can be eligible for all of the opportunities that we may have for them. So I think that's it for me at this point. I'm gonna actually hand it over to Abby as we begin to introduce our panelists.
Yeah, Awesome. Well, it is really great to hear from Robin and from Courtney. And I know as not just an employee of Calvin, but as a former student, the Career Center is so helpful. I was undecided when I started at Calvin, and I actually met with a career coach to kind of talk over what I was interested in majoring in and what might be a good fit. So I definitely encourage students to take advantage of all the opportunities that Calvin does have, which kind of leads me into my next segment, kind of talking to some of our parent council. And I would love for them to kind of briefly go around and introduce themselves, maybe who their student was at Calvin or maybe currently is at Calvin, and how they are taking advantage of some of the Career Center's opportunities. So yeah, I'll introduce, I'll have Rose introduce herself first, and then we can kind of go around the corner. So yeah, if you just want to say your name, where you're from, your student or students at Calvin, and yeah, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, I'm Rose Kajiwara. I'm a third-year parent council member, and I have had one graduate, who's Elisa, who will introduce herself shortly. I have a senior at Calvin and a freshman at Calvin. So we love Calvin, if you can't tell.
Hi, I'm that graduate. I am currently a student at Midwestern University for their physical therapy department. And I really enjoyed Calvin. Just so you know, though, if you have questions for me specifically, I graduated before 2020. So things probably have changed a bit since I've been there.
And I am Renata Smits, and I have 4 children that have one child that has graduated from Calvin. She is one that went on to graduate school, and I now say she's in prison because she is a social worker in prison, in a prison. And then I have a senior at Calvin, a junior at Calvin, and a freshman at Calvin. And my senior at Calvin also already has a job offer from the company that he interned with. So the things that Courtney talked about as far as job placement, internships, and all of that has been a fantastic support for my kids. And we have really appreciated that. The Calvin University name brand, I guess.
We are Todd and Deb Gaffner, and we live in Hudsonville, just outside of Grand Rapids, so we're very close to Calvin. And we have 4 children who have either attended or are currently attending Calvin. 2 have graduated. Our oldest graduated and went on to grad school at Grand Valley in physical therapy. And actually this spring just wrapped that up, and is studying for her boards that she'll actually be taking in a couple of weeks. So been through that process there. Our second daughter graduated in 2020 in nursing, and she is a nurse in the Grand Haven area over on the Lakeshore. And then we have a senior and a sophomore currently at Calvin. Our third daughter is the senior, and she is in the business area. And then our son is in mechanical engineering. And one of the questions that we were asked to talk about is what brought them to Calvin. Our kids are all runners in track, cross country, all that type of stuff they did in high school, and really wanted to continue that in college. And but our oldest, my wife and I both, we went to Calvin, we met at Calvin. That's kind of our family history there. And so our oldest daughter kind of wanted to do anything but Calvin, just how, some of those kids want to do that thing. And so she looked at a few other schools, but then she did visit Calvin fell in love with the coaches there for cross country and the just the program and everything. So she went to Calvin, and honestly, the other three kids never thought of anything else because my oldest had such a great experience, and then the other ones also with the at Calvin, that nobody else looked anyplace else. They just wanted to go to Calvin and have that same experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question, and I'll actually have all three of you answer that. But then some of the other questions, I might pick or choose one or two of you to answer those. But the first one I'm going to throw out there is just, how did Calvin prepare your student for life after Calvin? Or how did you think they best did kind of prepare them for that? So I'll actually throw it back to Deb, and you guys can answer that first.
I was particularly impressed with how my daughter, who is the nurse who graduated from Calvin, in very uncertain times, was very well prepared for facing the stress of COVID in her hospital. And yeah, she was very nervous, but she was very well equipped. She passed the NCLEX, I believe it's called, to practice, and yeah, just did really well. So that was exciting.
And I'd say in general, I feel that compared to going into Calvin and coming out of Calvin, our kids have been much more prepared to deal with whatever situation came about. I mean, mature way of thinking and approaching life and just making decisions and things like that.
I know my daughter, who graduated with a degree from Calvin in psychology and then went on to Western Michigan for her master's in social work. She actually said her bachelor's degree was much harder to get than her master's, and she loved the work. She loved the work in her master's program, but she was so well prepared. And some of the work that she did directly with her professors in undergraduate mirrored very closely to some of the classes that she had in her master's program. It was amazing how prepared she was, and how I don't want to say easy, but she just felt very confident in her program.
Well, I'm going to let Elisa speak for herself. So I'm going to speak from my Tiffany's point of view, because she's our senior right now. She entered Calvin as a physics student. She's not currently a physics student. So because at that time she thought she was going to be a physics major, she got a job at the observatory. Fantastic. She decided after a while this was not for her. So then she decided, let's check out digital communication. She got a job with the digital communication and marketing department. She was helping to clean up the websites and help with the links and all that kind of stuff. She enjoyed it, but thought, not quite right. Then she decided, I'm going to be a writer. So then her professor actually tells her, there's actually a paid internship at a Christian publishing house just 10 minutes away from Calvin. Are you interested? So she jumped on it. And so whatever track she was on at the time, the Calvin community found ways for her to experience it and see, does this work for me or does it not? And then from there on, make the choices that helped her to zero in on the correct course for her. So Elisa, for yourself?
So unlike my sister, I was pretty confident in what field I wanted to go in. I did like a summer internship where I sat around Athletico for like 4 hours every day and figured, okay, I do like this. I like therapy. So when I got to Calvin, I knew I wanted to do therapy. Lucky for me, there was a club called PORT, or Physical Occupational Recreational Therapy Club. So I got to see perspectives of different therapists from different fields. And since most of us were physical therapist interested. They brought in primarily physical therapist speakers, but they brought in other therapy therapists to talk about their profession, about what it's like, about some of the things they've done, their experiences, and some of them brought opportunities. In Grand Rapids, there's a hospital called Mary Free Bed, and we got to tour there at one point, and they mentioned that they had volunteer opportunities. I took his business card and I emailed them later and ended up volunteering with them for about a whole year. So 2 or 3 quarters, getting experiences at the hospital with people of with different conditions. And then later I switched to their outpatient facility in a YMCA nearby that I got to see a significantly different population pool than the hospital setting, with a lot more neuro cases like traumatic brain injury or spinal cord injury or recent amputations. Instead, I got to see people who were who didn't need monitoring by a nurse constantly, and I got a wide variety. I also talked to my career coach about going to grad school afterwards. Since if I wanted to become a physical therapist, I would have to go through a doctorate program, and he helped me with my resume, with my interviewing skills, and I ended up getting waitlisted at University of Indianapolis and accepted at University of Midwestern University in Downers Grove. So that's how I got where I am, and I feel very well prepared despite the pandemic and stress levels, because my professors made a big point about how in grad school there are case studies. So you're not thinking about it like a checklist. Okay, this is the definition of this, or this is the diagnosis of that. It's more like, here's someone who walks in your door. Here are things that you notice about them. How would you respond to this kind of question? So I feel like we got a great education and a lot of opportunities, given how in my courses, we also got to look at the various equipment, including like the VO2 max equipment, the BMI equipment, and got to understand how they work, why they would use it here or there, and their pros and cons.
Awesome. Oops, sorry.
I'll just add that I have my son is an engineering student, and similar to Rose, he worked with his engineering professors from the start, from his freshman year, and was able to find internships with the professor's help. And like I said, he interned for 2 years with a company that he now has a job offer from, and he is doing work that he is thoroughly excited about. And I think the company they have a reputation of having a lot of Calvin interns, and they like hiring Calvin interns because they are very well rounded and very well prepared, and they do a good job. So he's very excited about working there. So there again, just having that relationship with his professor, and just talking to his professor, and his professor having the connections within the community was a really great advantage for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is really great to see just how helpful, professors and faculty can be, no matter what major students are in. And actually, Elisa, I'd love to do a follow-up question for you, just about how Calvin helped prep you for grad school. I know you said you mentioned you went in and talked to a career coach, which is awesome. What are some of the other things they were able to do for you? And then Renata and Todd and Deb, if you have other input for that as well, that'd be great too.
Sure. There was a specific class that I took at one point. I forget what it was called, but it's basically preparing students who are interested in the medical field for the health field. So it was run by a nurse who had plenty of experience at hospitals and with plenty of connections. In fact, part of her job was to help students who were willing to speak to her find connections elsewhere for internships and volunteer opportunities, shadowing, stuff like that. So she was very helpful. She also warned us about certain issues that run in hospitals and other situations, like certain trends of how nurses are treated at times by doctors, or to be prepared for this kind of thing, because while it's unfortunate, it does happen. That kind of stuff. We also did bleeding. We trained just in case we needed to help someone with a serious bleed. So we learned how to use a tourniquet. We learned what to do and signs and all that kind of stuff, and got certified at the end for a period of time that it was, accepted. Other than that, one of the things I think helped me the most, outside of everything I've already mentioned, is the counseling center. So while, yes, stress and stuff happened, I ended up having an unfortunate situation with one of my apartment mates that my counselor was able to help me develop strategies for dealing with the stress and recognizing when it was time to just move on with my life outside of that living space. So it wasn't just about the academics, but I was fortunate enough that my counselor could help me develop skills for coping, for healthily managing stressors in my life while being respectful to other people.
That's interesting, Lisa, because my older daughter had a similar situation. And her dorm director was able to help her with similar strategies. So, which is really cool because, like you said, Abigail, I think there's so many different people, and it kind of depends on where you connect with someone on campus. And there's so many people that reach out to you. And as a parent, it's so good to know that there are people that are there for your child, that they're not just a number, that they are a person, that people care about them, and that there are people that can go there. But my daughter, she worked, one summer she worked with a professor on one of his papers, on one of his research projects. So and it was not really in an area that she had a lot of interest in, but it was just a way to get some experience, and it did help her in her grad school, in one of her classes, in some of the research things that she had to do for grad school. So that opportunity it was a way to just a different opportunity that I don't think she would have gotten too many other places. So, and I think just having personal relationships with some of her professors, my daughter really, she wasn't sure where she wanted to go for grad school, and she knew exactly what she wanted to do. but not where she wanted to go and what she, what was gonna, where the school that was gonna give her what she wanted to do. And having relationships with the professors, she was able to talk to them personally and honestly and get some really good advice from them on, you know, what she could expect from the different grad schools that she was looking at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Deb or Todd, do you guys have anything to add on that topic?
So our daughter, Hannah, has a disability, and she has found the disability services very, very helpful. And that's another thing that we find a lot of comfort with at Calvin, that when there's challenges, that there's somebody there to help you too. So that's been really great.
In addition, when thinking about preparation and moving on, you know, I think a lot of bigger schools that kids may go to, they don't have those opportunities to get help. And whether that's from, I mean, a lot of our kids at varying levels have used tutors to help them with classes. I think they're, in general, our kids aren't extremely bold, I would say, but the more that they reached out to get that help, either from tutors or the professors who are always, you know, open doors and very welcoming and everything to help them, the more confidence that gave them, and they would continue to reach out more and more. And that, you know, any questions they had about, you know, what was going on in class, stuff like that, to get those things answered and just build that confidence really helped them throughout their career at Calvin and into the future, I think.
And something I'd love parents to understand, that these tutors are actually paid positions that are students who've already taken the class and have been really successful in the class. So it's a win-win. The student helps the student and they get paid for doing it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's really a wide range of resources to help prepare your student, even if that's not necessarily, you know, like career outcome. It all does kind of go towards that, just getting that extra support. But one really great kind of support that Calvin does have within the Career Center is the Life Work program, which we in admissions like to call it Adulting 101, because it really does help prepare you for all of that. So this one I'll throw out to anyone. Did any of you have a student that went through the Life Work program or can kind of speak into that? And even Courtney, if you wanted to jump in there as well, just kind of expand on that program too, that'd be.
I've had my senior did it. I haven't heard too much from him to tell me about it, but I know through Life Work, he did have a resume that with Life Work, he had a resume created, and there were several times where on the spot someone would say to him, "Hey, do you have a resume?" And thank goodness he had gone through that what do you call it, that Life Work chapter or whatever it's called, and he did. And it was, and same with my younger daughter, my junior, same thing. But some of the other things that are part of Life Work have been, yeah, I mean, the adulting thing that you kind of, as an adult now, you kind of take for granted that you just know. And I just know, like, I so appreciate that Calvin has kind of taught my kids, because it was never an issue that I was able to teach them. I didn't realize, and I can't tell you what it was, but I just know that they came home and my daughter would say, oh yeah, I have to do this for life work. And it's like, oh, I'm so glad you're learning that. And I said, I don't know when you're going to need it, or that's a really good thing to know. You will use it at some point. And I think it's fantastic. And Courtney reminded me about it when she was talking about it, and I jotted myself a note to remind my freshman that he's got to enroll in that, because I don't want him to miss out on it.
We had very good experience with it. Also, Hannah, who is our senior, has been enrolled in that. And I would say specifically this summer when she was home, she was doing a lot of that stuff. So I could see what she was working on and the checklist of all the things that she needed to go through and work on. And I was a business major, so I'm in business and see a lot of, do interviews and stuff like that. And so to see how she's being prepared, what she's asked to do, getting in on, getting signed up on LinkedIn, just the various different tasks that she's assigned to do, we were out camping and she was asked to meet with somebody in his business profession. And so she had an opportunity to go, step out in her comfort zone a little bit, honestly, and talk with somebody who we found out was in marketing, and just ask some questions and learn about that, and then write a little write-up about that. And so I think it really did stretch her a little bit, but also help prepare her for what she may be facing when she gets out of college, and have not only like the resume and LinkedIn and some of those things set up, but also some practical experience that she can fall back on to know that she's done some of these things and some of these steps, and when she gets up there in other interviews.
Well, and just to add on to that, I think just the fact that there are people, I think they watch videos or they read something, and then but there are people in the Career Center to counsel them, that they do meet with on a periodic basis to help them. And I know, like with the resume or with the LinkedIn account, I think my kids met with someone in the Career Center that they got feedback from on their resume, and we're that edited their resume or edited their LinkedIn account. And it was really good feedback and really good advice. And so they're not just doing these workshops on their own. It's guided, and it's with experts that want to see them succeed.
I had a funny LinkedIn story. I could tell the LinkedIn module was happening because suddenly I got all these LinkedIn invites from all these Calvin kids, some of whom I didn't know, but that's okay. I'll say yes. Okay, fine. And then somewhere along the way, somebody who knows one of those kids ended up reaching out to me because they're like, oh, I see you're in the insurance industry. I'd like to get some tips on how to get in there. I didn't know this guy from Adam, but just because they know someone I know, sure. So I answer a bunch of questions, say, hey, this is what I'd recommend. This is how you get your foot in the door. This is how you network. A few months later, he sends me a nice little email saying, hey, I got a job. I'm so excited. So it does work. All that networking skill, it takes some time, but it does work.
I will say life work did not start until after I was done with school. So I was honestly kind of jealous that Tiffany had some help making a LinkedIn, among other things. So yeah, I would highly recommend it.
And I don't know, Abigail, I know in one of our parent council meetings, and Courtney, maybe but I think a year ago, they said that Calvin University is the only university in the country that does this program. And that it is a model that other universities are seeking. So it's fantastic.
So I love hearing this feedback from the parents as well as the students about our program. It is definitely one of a kind. And something that we really are proud of here at Calvin. And we are, like I said, very intentional about walking alongside the students and preparing them for things and experiences and skills that they will have to develop before they graduate. So most times, if you were to ask a freshman at the beginning of the semester, hey, what is your experience with Calvin Life Work, or what is your perspective on it? Most times they're like, oh, it's just another thing that I have to do to check it off the list, right? And it's really my parents are making me do it or something like that. So kudos to the parents for getting them on board initially. But if you go on later down that year, even into their sophomore year, they're like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for helping me make a resume. Thank you so much for making us create a budget, because these are things that I had to encounter and I had to learn on my own. So because you provided this information, I didn't have to learn that on my own. And I was already equipped and prepared compared to some of their counterparts. So I love hearing the feedback from all of you. And I hope that the parents that are on this call, that you really encourage and have your students participate in this program, because it is definitely one of a kind, and it really does prepare them for life, given those practical experiences and knowledge, and for work once they graduate. So that's my little pitch for it.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, and I was definitely in the same boat as Elisa. It started my sophomore year, and I remember thinking, wow, there's a lot of good information in there that I wish I could have. So it's awesome. Whenever I talk to families about it in admissions, they are also like extremely intrigued, and they think it's an amazing program because you are learning a lot of great life skills. And yeah, one other thing I'd kind of like to touch on too is, a lot of students do come into college being undecided. And that feels very scary because you feel like you're starting a little bit behind when that's truly not the case. I think on average, most students change their major about 5 times while they're in college. So sometimes being undecided can be really helpful. But I would like to just talk about, what resources are there for students if they are undecided or are changing their major? So I'd like to start off with Rose, since you did mention that Tiffany was hopping around majors a lot. And you already touched on a little bit how professors were helping, but could you expand on that too, and just what other resources are there for students that aren't sure what they want to major in?
Well, that's one of the benefits of a liberal arts education, is because it forces them to try all these things that they might not have tried out otherwise. And so in Tiffany's case, her plan A didn't work, and then plan B didn't work. And then she ended up on plan C, which is what she's graduating with. And along the way, she had wonderful conversations with other students, with other professors, with the counselors. Everybody at Calvin is trying to help your students succeed. Everybody is committed to helping them along the way. And so all they have to do is set up an appointment, and a professor will be happy to discuss life choices. What's the advantage of going to grad school or not going to grad school? Getting job experience versus taking a couple years off. The professors will discuss all these things with them, and they're really great about it. Heck, even my daughter, one time, she needed to ask for a reschedule of an exam because she needed to get oral surgery. It's just really hard to get it scheduled. The professor asked her, "Can I give you a ride?" Who does that? In what school do you ever hear of something like that? So these professors are not just there to drop a lesson and move away. They really want to help your student get from here to there. And if it's not in their major, they're totally okay with that. They just want to help your student find the right choice for them.
If I could add on to that, while I was dealing with some of the apartment issues, I needed some more help. So I did end up asking my professors for extensions, and I explained why, or I asked some of my professors for prayer, and they all jumped on those things and wanted to help even more than some of the things I asked for. And if it means anything, there have been some cases I've heard of where professors will recognize that a particular student has some qualities that'd be great in their own field, and will say, hey, have you ever considered becoming a major? in whatever class that you're taking with them.
My junior was also in huge conflict coming in as a freshman, not knowing what she wanted to pursue. And excuse me. And it was almost overwhelming, the number of resources that were available to her to talk to, and people that she could rely on and go to, and trust their judgment. It was really reassuring that she was getting good counsel. So and so many people told her, you know, especially her freshman year, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. And it has worked out great. And she has gotten some good direction.
Yeah, and I do know for my own self, I came into Calvin totally undecided. I did not know what I wanted to study. And I actually did go to the Career Center, and I met with a career coach and said, these are all the things that I'm interested in, and this is maybe what I'm thinking about. Could I just have some help, some direction? And the career coach I met with, he was amazing. He really helped me kind of narrow down, okay, I think these are maybe the two majors you can kind of focus in on more, talk to your advisors, see what their thoughts are. So there's definitely a lot of resources just floating around. And it's like everyone said on the parent council, it can come from anywhere. Everyone at Calvin truly wants your students to succeed, and they want to, help your students' gifts and passions kind of shine through. So one question I would love to kind of wrap up with is actually, what kind of piece of advice would you give to incoming students and their families as they're thinking about maybe coming to Calvin or just going to college in general? So I'd love to start off with Deb and Todd for that question.
Oh, I have lots of advice. It's hard to narrow down to one piece. This may sound really strange, but get your child an alarm clock. That would, don't have them have their phone be their alarm clock, because they'll get woken up all night long from somebody texting them. So there you go. Get your child an alarm clock. How's that? Todd?
I had something. You can come back to me. We'll go to somebody else and come back to me.
I would say don't be afraid to fail. It's okay. It's part of the learning process. I think a lot of our kids, because, they were all top students in high school, that's how they get into Calvin in the first place, but they're not used to being, to struggling with things, for something not being easy. And they're not going to find their passion if they're afraid to try things that seem different, that they have no guarantee of success at. So to not be afraid to fail, and when they fail, to decide what to do with that failure and to learn and grow from it, and not to think that it's a mark against their character. It's just, okay, that door closed, let's try another.
I'd like to add on to that. At Calvin, one of the biggest pieces of advice I have for students is just learn when you're over your head, learn to ask for help. And there really isn't any need to be afraid to ask for help at Calvin. I've asked professors for help on lots of stuff. I mentioned extensions, going to the counselor center. I've talked to Pastor Mary or Pastor Matt, or I don't know who's there now, but basically I learned that asking for help can be one of the greatest benefits or greatest skills you could have at Calvin, because then you are started on a path to getting to exactly to where you're needed. Maybe that professor doesn't know exactly how to help you, but they can direct you to someone who's better equipped for that. Maybe you're not even sure what to do, and they can help you get started. It's been absolutely amazing, the feedback I've gotten just for saying, can you help me? And I do know a couple of students who struggled a lot, and both of them said to me afterwards that they regret not asking for help.
I don't know if this is really advice, but something to think about. I am not a Calvin alum, but my husband was. But we told our oldest daughter when she was looking, she did not want to go to Calvin. And we said, just look at it, visit, so that you have something to compare it to. She visited campus, and it was maybe her second or third college visit, I think. And she loved it. And so we left the visit, and she said, this is where I'm going to go. And so one thing is, you have to visit campus, because your child just needs to have that feel. But the other thing that I remember hearing an engineering professor talk to some senior engineers and say that the number one, he as an educator, his number one goal is to make the Lord a priority in his students' lives, and to make them good family men and and women and good people in the community, and then make them good engineers. And that really touched me. And that was one thing that I conveyed to my kids when they were considering school, is that very few places you will go where the professors care about your heart and your character over what you can do for them. So that was just something that I wanted my kids to take into consideration when they were looking at schools.
So one thing I'd say, and it relates to that, is, I think a lot of our kids come out of high school, and especially growing up in a Christian home, kind of with their parents' faith. They maybe, they go to school, and I guess it's an opportunity for them to really make their faith their own. And Calvin really, with the professors and everybody, really helps with that and prepares for that through many different ways that we've just heard. Alyssa, I think you had a mic drop comment there about reaching out for support and help because it's there. I mean, as I said before, a lot of bigger schools, you're not going to find that. And it's not just out of obligation. These professors and the tutors and everybody really care and really want everybody to succeed. So I think that's just a really great opportunity and encouragement that you can give students as they go off to school.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think all of that advice is wonderful and truly fitting. And yeah, definitely, Renata, what you were saying about the engineering professor, and just they do want to make sure, Calvin wants to make sure your student is taken care of physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so that's definitely a big thing. And you can see that just through the amazing, staff we have on hand, just like Courtney in the Career Center. They're amazing. They want to help. And yeah, definitely come visit. That's a huge thing. And so definitely as you leave here today, if you haven't already visited, I definitely would encourage that. You can reach out to myself or to Robin or anyone else in admissions. And yeah, you can definitely join these amazing parents as well. And you can see just how much they love Calvin and their students love Calvin. So thank you to everyone who came today. Thank you so much, Rose and Elisa, Renata, Todd and Deb. Thank you, Courtney and Robin. And yeah, so this will wrap up our time today. It is 8 o'clock, so we want to be respectful of everyone's time, but thank you so much for coming. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you guys have any additional questions after today. So thank you.